Hello and welcome to CRE Talks, a video series created by ICBR in Korea, Indiana, where we talk with industry experts and innovators in commercial real estate. The commercial real estate industry continues to evolve and be impacted by COVID-19 and the start of a recession. These short video interviews will provide strategies, projections, and business tips to support the commercial real estate. I'm Lisa Moore, the Director of Membership for ICBR, and over the last several months, we see commercial real estate companies using virtual tours more than ever. This episode of CRE Talks, we learn how to bring attention to listings virtually. Krista Caldrone and Rich Forslund from Colliers International are joining us today. They're going to share more about their experience with virtual tours. Rich is the Executive Vice President for Colliers International, and Krista serves on the Indy Crew Board and also is the manager for the Office Agency Services. Thanks again, Rich and Krista, for joining us today, and we'll just jump right into the interview. If you want to start by sharing, since March, what you guys are seeing for the data on whether properties with virtual tours are selling quicker and what you guys have been experiencing at Colliers.
Sure. And thanks for having us. At this moment, I wouldn't say the data is in yet, right? As it relates to, the A to Z as far as virtual tours are concerned. But anecdotally, the conversations that we're having, the connections with our peer groups and our, channels of distribution as it relates to other brokers, et cetera, are basically giving us confidence that the virtual tours are working. Speaking to, obviously we're not able to tour, the tours are very limited at this time, but we're getting feedback as we put the virtual tours out on different, whether it be, buildings with new lobbies or, spec suites or just spaces, period. We're able to talk to, other brokers, and they're basically have a dialogue as it relates to, these spaces and the properties and the, what we're trying to push out.
Why don't we talk a little bit about virtual tours being normalized? As we know, more and more companies are using them. So what are you guys seeing?
At this point, virtual tours are normalized. I mean, they are pretty much at this point a must-have. Our clients are expecting it because a lot of corporations have mandates that they cannot let their employees go out and do physical tours. It's virtually the only way to keep the ball rolling and to get people into these spaces and allow them the opportunity to see them. So it is a norm. It is something that we've jumped on. We've, our team has basically put the majority of our portfolio into the virtual tour world. And it did take a little bit of time. There is a learning curve and all that fun stuff, but it is something that we've totally embraced at this point.
And I'd like to add that we started to embrace this, prior to COVID, just seeing it as an excellent opportunity to just add a different marketing tool in our belt, if you will, and just making us more of a resource, a partnership with our building owners and brokers within the community. Everyone realizes that virtual tours were a necessity for residential, so this pivot to commercial is kind of seamless, in my opinion. Yeah, it was already taking off. This just kind of accelerated it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon with what clients are demanding, or both in commercial and residential, for sure.
Right.
So after we lived through COVID-19 and different restrictions are lifted, do you anticipate doing more virtual tours now that clients and the world has seen what capabilities are out there? And why do you think that?
Yeah. At this point, I believe it is a tool that will stay in the toolbox, if you will. It's going to be something that we continue to do moving forward. We found a lot of, sort of intrinsic values with it. When I say that, even when it comes down to the actual space, and if we have a construction project that we're looking to have, maybe a tenant improvement project or something within a space, a lot of times the next step after a certain point of space planning and getting moving down the road on a deal would be to go get pricing, for instance, and have, the construction or project management folks come in and get subs in and start looking at space in order to get pricing, et cetera. We've actually been able to use some of our virtual tours to get we'd send the virtual tours over to the construction folks, and they were able to see enough a lot of times to actually get some pricing done. If it's a very extensive job, that probably wouldn't be the case, but if it's a simple TI job, we've found that that's a decent resource as well as far as these virtual tours are concerned. So outside of just the sheer marketing and getting out there and putting it out there for folks to look at when they're in the prospective tenant buying phase or position, that it's also a tool for getting some work done as far as the construction. So yeah, I think no question, it's just now going to be a box checker as far as what you're providing. And again, it's become a lot more helpful in a lot of different ways.
In my opinion, the virtual tours themselves have been a great follow-up tool in groups that are going out and touring in person. It's helping them narrow down their short list. Or if they just have particular questions about a certain room and wanted to remember the coloring or the carpet or whatever it might be, you can forward that over to them, and then they can work off their short list that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a reminder of the space that they did tour, if you will.
Yeah, you go in and after looking at so many properties, you forget what you've seen. And so going back and looking what is out there would definitely be a perk.
Well, and a lot of times, these folks, as they go and tour, they're the eyes and ears. They're the boots on the ground for a larger organization or group of people. So the ability for them to say, okay, we went and looked at these are the ones that we like, and let's all sit around the table, or maybe get on at this point, get on a Zoom call or something of that nature, and go through these together and be able to physically walk them with a group of people or a board or what have you. It's a pretty neat tool to have when you're thinking about larger groups and disseminating information.
And definitely for groups that are out of state, that are looking to come in state, it alleviates that front end cost of sending their real estate individuals here locally on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
So what are best practices you'd like to share with other brokers about virtual tours?
I'd start with, when we first started doing research, we were getting on and trying to find as many that we could that were out there in order to try to understand what to do and what not to do. What we had found was a couple things. Number one, and I know Krista can vouch for that, staging is important. So if you just walk into a room and start shooting it, and you're not straightening chairs and you're not checking, maybe there's a box in the middle of a table or something. If you're not going in and spending time to stage it as you would with a tour or as you would with a photo session, et cetera, then you're gonna see that. It's gonna look a little sloppy, and obviously it's not gonna put the building in the best light or the space in the best light. So I would say that is a big piece. One of the other things that I think is probably not something that's maybe as obvious, but this is at least an opinion of ours and our team. More is not necessarily better. So we've seen tours where every square inch of a space or a building has been shot. And so when you get into the virtual tour, you're seeing all these dots all over heck. It's overwhelming, I think, for the folks that are trying to actually run the tour. And the other piece is, I think folks have a tendency to get lost in the tour with that much going on and that many dots or points within a virtual tour. So to the extent that you can keep it clean, you obviously want to, give folks a good impression of what the space is and the major spots, whether it be the reception into, the main space, into a private office. If there's 30 private offices, we don't need to see 30 private offices. You need to see one or two. Maybe there's a smaller one, maybe there's an executive's, office, et cetera. You want to concentrate and push those buttons, not, think that you're getting extra credit for every single office or something of that nature. We saw some of those when again, we were doing research and it was just mind boggling. You know, you get lost and you can't figure out where you are, and it was just sort of overwhelming. So, you know, those are a couple that come to mind.
When shooting a virtual tour, it's definitely, the attention is in the details, and I treat them exactly as if I had a group with me and what I would want them to see. So I do make sure all the chairs are facing a little bit, or facing the same way. I make sure all the blinds are up. You know, make sure those trash cans are hiding, not necessarily in a physical tour, but you know, just making sure that it's tidy, it's it looks well maintained, and it just presents well.
Great. Well, that will do it for today's episode of CRE Talks. Thank you, Krista and Rich, for joining us today and providing your valuable insight into the virtual tour industry. We'll be sharing more CRE Talks monthly through our social media channels as well as member emails. So until next time, thanks for joining.